especially these days, like, I don't know, my brain's not very nice to me on a regular basis, so I have to keep it in a really good, clear place so that I
Right.
can navigate some really difficult thoughts on a daily basis. So,
Hmm.
that's a big thing for wellness for me is like if I, have a big night out on the booze, that'll probably have a flow on effect over the
Sorry, I
weekend.
just love that phrase. Out
Just
on the
such
booze.
an Aussie thing, like let's go out on the booze. But it'll smash me for the whole weekend, and I can
Right.
guarantee that my thoughts are in a really bad space, and take me to some really dark places that I don't want to go to. But like I have to keep my brain in a really good place, and that comes down to, like I take supplements in the morning, like having a really healthy breakfast,
Yep.
drinking lots of water, meditating, getting outside. So, those things are like non-negotiables for me because it keeps my brain sharp. And even after all of that, sometimes I'm still having a rough time of it.
Oh,
But
sure.
like it reduces the likelihood of me being in a really bad place that, I don't want to be in. So yeah, there's lots of different motivations, I think, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up about keeping your head in a good place, or however you said it. That's not the right way to say it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
um, that, because obviously we're encouraging people to not settle. And I think when you decide that you're not going to settle anymore, that's a huge decision. It's going to be stressful somewhat. I mean, depending on how you define stressful, but it's going to create a lot of emotions in you that maybe you haven't had before. And, you're really going to, as you are learning more about yourself, it's a very energy intensive exercise and it burns a lot more energy than you would realize. And so you're not going to make it very far in your journey to not settle if you're not taking care of your body. To me, it almost has to come first. I mean, they need to go hand in hand, but if you're not taking care of your body, you're just not going to have the resources, like you just said, you're not going to have the resources that you need to have your brain function properly and help you along the
Mm.
journey.
And I think, if we think about like in the workplace, like even what we used to do. So like,
Yeah.
were you working really stupidly long hours when you were a chartered accountant?
Yeah. So it was standard. It was expected that you work 60 hours a week during tax season.
Oh,
And I would say I stuck to that. Like, that was my boundary. I did go over 60 sometimes, but whatever. For the most part, I stuck to that 60 hours. And I was one of the ones who probably worked in the last office I was at. I worked less than everybody else. So there were people who were working 90 hours a week. And consistently for 3 months.
yeah.
So yes, for sure. And during those times, it was definitely important too to I would bring I would have this huge bag, of all this food I would bring with me, so I have my snacks. Because that's one thing I do is, and I've done it for years, is I eat 3 moderately sized meals and I have 3 snacks during the day. And
Mm.
so, when I'm going to be at work for 12 hours a day, that's a lot of food. I had to
Yeah.
take along every day. But the main
What
thing
kind
that
of snacks? Were they healthy?
yeah, oh yeah. So here's another weird thing that I do. I'm kind of taking over the conversation here, but
No, this is interesting. I like
I've
this.
been doing this for a long time. But so another weird thing that I do that works for me is I eat the exact same thing every day, except for dinner. My dinner isn't the same every
Like,
day,
how
but
long for have you been doing this?
oh, years. I mean, that I've eaten the exact same thing every day, it's probably been, oh gosh, 5, 6 years.
Wow. Okay.
Now, I
Yeah.
mean, it'll switch up a little bit. But for example, in the morning, I have cereal. Now, yeah, maybe my cereal has changed over time.
Yep.
And then for my morning snack, I have a yogurt. And I have Greek yogurt because it has more protein in it. And that's another
Mm.
thing. Protein is very important for your brain health. And for other things. But then for lunch, I have the same thing. Now, I'll have a sandwich of some kind. Now the sandwich might change, but the sandwich, and then, afternoon snack, I'll have like some nuts or protein bar or something like that. and then my dinner is always the same. And then I might have like popcorn or something for an evening snack. So, but for me, that's probably a lot more detail than you needed. But for me,
We can post in the comments like, okay, guys, you want to
I
tell us
know, like
about
I
what
don't
you
need to
eat?
know all of this. But it helps me to not, it's something, because when you're thinking about, oh my gosh, I had to come up with 5 or 4 things to take to work today, you know, that can seem overwhelming. Or even to think, okay, I got to come up with 6 different things that I'm going to eat today. It can feel really overwhelming. And so to me, it's just easier just to keep the same every day. And I don't know that that's a healthy, I really don't know that that's a healthy thing to do, because you're not getting the variety. But you know, I try to balance my proteins and my carbs and my fats. And so, you know, I think it works for me anyways.
Well, I think it's good because it creates a habit, and it does, as you say, it takes that decision out of it, because sometimes you get a bit of decision fatigue because you go, oh my God, like what am I going to get when I go to the supermarket? One thing I'd say that I'm trying to do, and I don't do it every week, but I try and add one new thing, you know, to my shopping cart. I don't really use the shopping cart. That's like such an American thing that I don't even say. I'm trying to cater to the American. You know, something I add to my trolley.
What do you call it?
We call it a shopping trolley.
I thought so. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why I said cart. Sorry, cart's fine. But yeah, what I try and add to my shopping trolley is like one new item, right? Because I think it's good for, you know, your microbiota. So like that's something that I was really interested in learning about, and having a diversity of, you know, different, I suppose, microbiomes, I suppose.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I don't know if that's right.
That sounds
Do you know much about that?
I know only a little bit, just about how much it influences your mental state. And that's probably why I was really interested in watching what I was eating. But trying to add something new to kind of create that diversity, whether it's like kimchi or like kefir, or like just different interesting like fermented foods to try and help my microbiota. And I've started to get my daughter onto them as well. And I love it. Like, you know, this 4-year-old, she'll be like, are we going to have kombucha today, Dan? I'm like, yes, we are going to have kombucha. I'm like, yes, you're such a well-grounded kid. You know, is that well-grounded or is that crazy? I don't know. But I just think it's so important to have some diversity in your diet. But to your point, I think it's also good to have a routine, because otherwise you can just go off and just probably eat crap, you know, and stuff like that.
Well, I think it makes it, for me, it's just too overwhelming. Like, I don't want to think about that. I'm a very routine person. So it's like, I just know I have my routine. But like I say, for dinner, whatever. I eat whatever everybody's having. And so that's my little bit of diversity in my diet.
Yeah. Well, just a quick question.
Yeah.
What happens when you're not meeting that routine? You know, like what does it do for your brain and stuff?
Oh, well, so I'll give 2 answers. So for example, say I'm on vacation, and so I can't really meet that routine exactly, but I'll try to mirror it as best I can. And so then my body doesn't go crazy, because that's the other thing. Like, people might think that my body's so used to having those types of foods and whatever, that if I ate something different, that it would just throw my body off completely. And it doesn't. But if I go, like, because sometimes, usually on Saturdays is my day, I just will eat whatever I want, and I don't think about it. And I do notice, though, then I don't feel good on Saturday. By the end of the day, Saturday, I'm not feeling good. And then even Sunday morning can be pretty rough, because I've done that to myself. And I've probably maybe not been out on the booze, but I've probably had a few beers on Saturday night too, so that doesn't help. So I definitely can tell a difference for sure in my alertness, and just for me too, what I really notice is how I manage my emotions. And I don't know if that's more of a female versus male thing, but like, if I'm not balancing all of my wellness activities very well, then I have a really hard time managing my emotions. And that's where I probably notice it the most.
I because I know you put a post up the other day about Eckhart Tolle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I started re-listening to him the other day, and he was talking about how the body manifests emotion, and I
Oh
didn't really know this, and how like it'll automatically create an emotion off the back of a thought because it can't differentiate reality versus a thought, which
yeah.
made sense because sometimes I get these emotions, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to have this one. This is really annoying, and it's because the thoughts triggered them. But I think that's really important too, is trying to keep your like emotions under control because they can really just drag you down, you know, and things like that. It's probably important to be mindful of those things as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, especially like I said, when you're trying to not settle anymore, and your emotions are
Mm.
going to be all over the place because you're in uncharted territory,
Yeah.
and you're doing most likely you're doing something completely new to you, something you don't feel comfortable with. So your emotions are already going to be all over the place. So
Mm.
it's like the more you can help yourself out, the better. But especially too.